Okay, so a new episode of Matnum for January 2023. So yeah, uh, it's gonna be a little bit shorter than the serial episode 2 weeks ago. So this month, last month in Matnum, I was kind of stuck with inspiration, trying to find a new insaturator, a new creative filter for my apps. So I was basically experimenting with the random presets and trying to find something new. And also traveling for me is kind of changes the change of context is pretty good on my inspiration. So going back to photography using my software tools. So here are two examples in the random mode. That's in Oslo in Norway, where I was beginning of January. And yeah, three other examples. By going through all those random mixes of filters and computational processes, uh, and going through Oslo, I know this city pretty well, obviously, and um, it. I tried to look at the results and see what I would like else. Sometimes it actually can I don't know, inspire me to say, oh, this is some characteristic coming out here. I would like to find it in a more systematized module. So here, a texture on the left, a texture of a street in the city. I think it's a modern art museum in Oslo in the middle, and City Hall on the right. Um, all those photos, which I kind of enjoy personally, are kind of giving me clues. The same thing for those three next photos. There was a blizzard while I was there early this month, so um, yeah, lots of inspiration because of the context, and actually I was happy to see what came out of the randomness. It's a bit like working with film. That's also part of how I do the apps. I like my apps to feel a little bit, like you don't really know what to expect, but you know a little bit because there's a there's a the engine will render something relatively homogeneous, but yeah, it's kind of a good way to let go of the expectation and be surprised by what you do. So three pictures again from Oslo. Still looking for an idea. And yeah, that's a photo of my workspace in Oslo, in the apartment I was in. So yeah, it's a very compact workspace. That's my tools basically. You can exclude the bottle, that's something else, but the the computer is basically what I need to code in my device to take pictures. And here again, three pictures. Um, Trying to dig deeper in what I feel is missing from the multitude of possibilities that I'm actually using right at the time, will give me, I hope, inspiration to find something new. Here another photo, and basically it's going back to doing photography, trying and seeing what comes out, and trying to spark some new idea. Um, so again, here three pictures. Really, this month I really had some happy, unexpected results, um, and yeah, I slowly am understanding, discerning the underlying filter and processes in each of these pictures, and slowly there's a lead that's coming up. Again, here another picture with some dynamic, motion blur, but I like the colors, and I felt like, oh, I should probably do something that has to do with low light. Um, and yeah, that. Then I was out of Oslo. That's south of Zurich, doing my kind of Todd Hido photos. Uh, Obviously not the same quality, but trying to take a few pictures of the suburbs at early night, end of the day, with those artificial lights and yeah, ambiances. And yeah, I thought, yeah, I will do something for low lights. So back to code. So here are two pictures. Again, I work with my four main apps, which is the main app I use is Camare, but the engine is basically used for Camare, Vica, Digital Paula, and Darkcam. So yeah, two pictures. One of old errors and warnings when I compile my code. I'm kind of a dirty coder, and on the right, that's a picture of the ceiling. from my device, which I'm testing things on. And here are those 4 pictures I found interesting. The one on the left is what comes out of the sensor. It's a room in a bank, but that doesn't really matter. It's not very explicit. But those 3 pictures on 3 variations of filtering, random filtering, kind of gave me an idea of what I wanted. I wanted something that kind of distorts the color map, but gives it some kind of chemical analog transformation. And that's the 2 pictures on the right, this dual photo where when I'm coding, I test the device and takes pictures on both sides of the device. That's the first results from this insaturator that I named Gulbul. And I don't like seeing myself in pictures. That's obviously one of them, but I think it gives, again, I started finding it interesting because it kind of reminds me in what state I was. And I'm usually very concentrated in some way or another on what's going on. So it's an interesting archive of feelings while I'm coding. And the picture on the left, that was just like, oh, yeah, I might use this new filter for moments, a bit more social moments, going out and more candid photography. And so I had that in mind with those kinds of lightings. But yeah, and here are the 3 next photos that's using this filter. The picture on the left, we can see there's framing. Basically, here I'm talking quite fast about the process, but it was actually a pretty slow process, and I actually focused way more on conventional photography in the month of January because of that lack of inspiration. And in the meantime, for my apps, there's a 3rd module in the photo engine, which actually makes frame skins. It's basically an engine that creates frames and kind of skins. It's not as strong in transforming the image, but it does frames. And I did actually focus my coding on those frames. There's lots of new frames in the apps. And on the left, you can see one of those new frame skins. It's not very important in the treatment of the image, in my opinion. But yeah, when I have no inspiration, I have other things I can work on in my apps. And yeah, those 3 pictures, actually, I was pretty convinced that sometimes it's really slow in the process when I develop, even if I have a very explicit idea, it's pretty slow to make it work. Here it seemed to work pretty fast, so I directly tested it in the real life settings. And in low light, it's early morning on the left picture, and middle and right at the same picture, but with the variator at maximum intensity in the middle and minimum in the right. The way it distorts the images, how it pushes colors towards magenta or cyan, yellow. Yeah, and obviously the 2 pictures here have a different filmulator layer, but the insaturator is the same. Definitely, I felt like it was working. So here again, 3 pictures, really low light. Actually, it's night pictures, but gives you an idea of what this Gulbul insaturator does. Gives it this eerie look. To me, it sort of felt really chemical. When you modify your for example, developing processes, chemical transformations that are going to kind of blur your colors, and that's the feeling I wanted to have, and that's what I get again with those 3 pictures. The variator actually here is on the left picture, that's at maximum value, the right picture at minimum value, and I wanted something in between that was kind of more neutral. All my apps have this haptic feedback when you move the variator, so you do actually feel a small feedback when you're at the middle position, and I wanted this neutral look like I had here, and I was quite lucky in that sense that almost the first version of my code worked well. Here again, 2 pictures and a half. On the left picture was the value at the maximum level, and right, the minimal level on the right, maximum level of variator in the middle. It's definitely doesn't render the same color, but I think there's really the feel. It's the same process with some modifications, obviously, but I think it feels like it's the same module, and using it, I think it works out pretty well. So that's a little bit where I ended at the end of the month, and basically was happy with it. All the apps have it in production, and yeah, here's those three pictures on the left. So it's use of Gulbul, and in the middle, that's again trying to go random and trying to find new inspiration for future modules. That's Rondi in the middle. As on the right picture, it's Ondo with its weird sky modifications, sky textures. So again, I'm back to the process of trying to find something new. So it was a weird month. Hopefully you found this interesting again, and maybe if you have questions or comments, don't hesitate, of course, and maybe see you next time.